call to order the executive board meeting for the Northwest Indiana Regional Planning Commission for the regular scheduled meeting of December 11th. We're going to call this to order at 9:11 a.m. If everyone could please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everyone here. And Mary, I've been advised that you have a form for an executive board meeting. Okay, let's move to approval of the minutes for the October 16th full commission meeting. Do I have a motion to take action on that?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move to report of the chair. A couple things I would just like to make mention. We would like to give a special thank you to outgoing commissioners. Would like to, I'm going to name these off. Rich Marinsky from LaPorte County Council. Rich, are you here? Okay.
You entered code
Anthony Pepon from Union Township.
5.
Jim Polaric from Porter County Council. Nancy Adams from the Porter County Commissioners, and I think she was going to try to Skype in. They were having a little trouble getting her on the line. She's in California, I believe. And also Rosalie Jacobs. She is retired from Kingsford Heights. We want to thank them for their service and their commitment to NERC. I also want to mention that after the conclusion of today's meeting, the nominating committee will be meeting. That is Blair Milo, Jeff Benson, Tom McDermott, and myself for next year. At this time, I would like to ask Commissioners Jim Tunn from Chesterton and Joe Simonato from Munster, please, if they could come up here to the front. We want to present them. They didn't know they were going to get called up, so
This is a surprise. This is new. I don't think this has been done in the history of NERC.
We want to acknowledge, as you know, it's always a challenge with everyone's schedule to try to maintain quorums with both the executive and full commission. These two gentlemen have not missed a meeting all year. All right. And we
Thank you, sir.
perfect attendance. You get extra credit.
All right. Is that okay? We did think it could be a bit problematic if one of you didn't show up today. Just your coordinating.
All right, we'll keep moving promptly. Let's move to the executive director's report. Ty Warner.
Very good. Can you hand me the...
Sure.
Great. I just want to remind you to use the microphones in front of you as you go around. Just a few quick things. I put in front of you the presentation from Kelly Disser. If you remember last meeting, October, we had a presentation on economic development from his perspective as someone who's particularly concerned about the lack of available buildings and places for businesses to locate easily into, kind of ready-made. That presentation is at your spot, so you have that as well as his contact information. So just remind you that we had that presentation, and he was happy to get that to you, and he also said he's happy to correspond with anybody that wants to ask him any questions or follow up with him. So you've got his contact information right there. I also want to just acknowledge, I don't know if Blair's able to be here today, but the TEDx conference, Caroline Road, I was able to be one of the 100 attendees of that. I don't know how many people in this room were able to be there. But just want to acknowledge what a fantastic event that is. For those of you that didn't track that, TED grew out of technology, entertainment, design, or you might have heard of TED Talks. The TEDx element of that is sort of a homegrown TED conference, mini conference, that is done locally. It has to have the imprimatur of the TED organization, so it's a big deal to be able to put that on and use their brand and all the rest. Well, the Emerging Leaders Network, which is the 20s and 30s, and they might accept some 40s, in Northwestern Indiana, put on this TEDx County Line Road conference. First time it's been done in Northwestern Indiana. And just a tremendous, tremendous event. The energy of that event was fantastic, and they're definitely doing it again. They were capped at 100 by the TED organization for their first one, and they were capped at a $10,000 budget for their first one. They had to turn away sponsors. That's how much people wanted to continue to contribute to that. So look for good things from them in the future. They'll definitely do it again next year and plan to make it an annual thing. Not only is that relevant, even if Blair hadn't been a speaker at that event, but you have impeccable timing. You're right on cue. Presenting Blair Maida. Blair was one of the, there were 4 speakers at the TEDx event, and Blair was one of the 4, and did a fantastic job. And without, any coercion of any sort, created her own slide of Pathway to 2040 in the course of her talk, which I'm totally putting you on the spot. I don't want you to have to read your talk, but could you kind of just give a summation of what you talked about as long as you're sitting next to me?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I had the opportunity to chat a little bit about how we can try and create, from a regional perspective, the happiest place on earth in order to compete with Disney World in some capacities. That was sort of the tie-in there, and with a different understanding of how you define happiness, ultimately to be long-term, deep-seated feeling of contentment. That not the short-lived joy that one might feel if you've won the lottery or been able to win a big game or purchase something that you've been longing for, but really that long-lasting, deep-seated feeling of contentment which comes from earned success and the ability to add value to the world around you. And how everybody defines that is certainly different and is individualized for each person, but if you can create an environment that allows for everyone to earn success and add value to the world around them, you can create the happiest place on earth. And looked at it from a regional perspective, if you overlay some different things across I've laid out the 6 different themes that are in the Pathway to 2040. That I don't have my notes in front of me, but if you have those 6 different areas that talk about transportation, and the diversity, the environmental stewardship, all of those things, and then you try and incorporate some of the different critical thinking type skills, and I can't recall off the top of my head from having not done it right just a second, but then if you incorporate these different ideas across the 6 different lanes that are laid out in the Pathway to 2040, then we can create this environment where everyone has the opportunity to earn success and add value to the world around them, and therefore create the happiest place on earth in Northwest Indiana. I don't want to give it away. That's why I didn't say all the specifics.
Well, the neat thing is, too, and I'll move on here, but the neat thing is that these were videotaped. I think they're already available online. So, in fact, we could get the link to you for the TEDx, and you can watch all 4 presenters while we're doing it. Just a couple of quick things, and then we can move on with the rest of the agenda. Just wanted to, a couple of high-speed rail notes. Some of you may be aware of this already, but there's a draft environmental impact statement for the Chicago to Detroit high-speed rail line. Michigan DOT has been particularly spearheading this. They had a public meeting, I think it was the 30th, at the Genesis Center in Gary, locally, and then they had others across the line. That's being reviewed right now, I think, at least by NERC staff and others in the region. Those comments are due, I believe, the 19th of December. But just to let you know that that project is trying to move ahead to pave the way for high-speed rail to Detroit. Likewise, we've been involved in an effort that I don't think I've talked about with the commission yet to look at high-speed rail from Chicago to Columbus. And that all the communities all along that route have been meeting periodically to try to get funding to do an environmental impact statement for that. So there's 2 very important high-speed rail projects that are in the works, and I wanted you to know that was going on. And the connection with those major metropolitan centers, I think, would be really advantageous to us if they're able to find a way to do it.
Would there be stops, or would it just be direct connect between the two cities?
There's stops, yeah. For the Chicago to Columbus one, which is foremost on my mind, it's Gary and Valparaiso. For the Chicago to Detroit, I'm sorry, I don't have that handy with me. They're looking at 4 alternatives or 5 alternatives, and I don't recall where the stops are. I can get you a link to the EIS, draft EIS, and we can follow up. A few more other things. So if you recall, we passed a resolution of support for the RDA. Time is running very quickly, but I think that was last week. I testified before the budget committee, budget hearing, with that resolution, with Bill Hanna, just to convey the resolution that you all passed and the support of the community. So that was conveyed, and I think well received. Also, I think since your last meeting, there was a community, I think it was after your last meeting, there was a community leaders retreat that One Region put together. They did this last year as well. NERC contributed with the KeyPack polling. Sarah from our staff provided the support for that. And so we had a lot of room-wide participation and prioritization. And for those of you who weren't there, the RDA became the top priority from that retreat as well. So there was extra support there. Just real quick, some other things that happened recently. Steve Strains presented on the process of creating the 2040 plan at IUN's Civic Engagement Conference. I think that was well received as well. We participated in what was more of an academic conference, but in that whole sphere of what we've done with the 2040 plan, he was able to communicate what we've done with that process. And then I mentioned before the work that particularly Sarah from our staff in GIS, but also Scott Weber and Gabrielle have been doing with this Alliance for Regional Development. There is a summit on December 19th where we will be presenting, meaning everybody that's been involved in that group, which is a 3-state effort, will be presenting the tool that NERC really took a great lead in developing. This is a GIS tool that crosses 3 states with its data. The idea is to identify assets and gaps in those assets. And so they've done tremendous work, Sarah and Gabrielle and Scott, working with Purdue and the Center for Visualization and with the Center for Regional Development. So that's getting presented on the 19th, and I think it's going to be helpful, especially if we can continue to grow that, all in the spirit of not just the Tri-State Alliance or Alliance for Regional Development, but also the Wingspread Accord, which involves all 4 states. We hope to expand that way. Last is just before time gets away, to remind you about the January 15th full commission meeting that will be coming up next. And we have lots on the agenda, so I guess I'll move it along. If I can segue into the next one. Sure, absolutely. We have Steve Walsh here from Lakeshore Public Media. And Steve, if you want to go ahead and come up and get ready. Steve very graciously hosted the meetings on October 29th for public transportation services in Northwest Indiana. And he did a phenomenal job. Again, this was part of our settlement agreement with Everybody Counts. And not only was it well attended, but I just have to say before I let Steve give the report, the passion in that room was palpable. The needs for regional transit in Northwestern Indiana, the problems with having gaps in the transit system are acute, and they're acutely felt by many in this region, and they made that very clear on the 29th. So Steve's going to report on that, but I just wanted to say thank you again for facilitating that event. I thought you did a great job.
Well, no, thank you for having me. I'm usually not on this end of it. I'm usually interviewing people around this table, so hopefully this will go well. But yeah, and I wanted to thank NERC and Everybody Counts for asking me to moderate the forum on such a key issue for Northwest Indiana. Well, I will tell you, this is the first time I've ever worked out the details for a show with opposing counsel, though in the end I think it actually worked out pretty well. We had representatives from most of the on-demand and fixed route providers in Northwest Indiana, including all the way in LaPorte County. There are also elected officials from several counties. We did this all at Wicker Park over in Highland. The way it worked is NERC staff was on hand not only to listen, but to answer questions. Linda Petrosky with NERC gave a presentation on NERC's role as a conduit for the funding for some of the smaller agencies. Teresa Torres and several members of Everybody Counts were there on hand and spoke. They were able to expand on the role, their role as advocates for the disabled in Northwest Indiana. I don't think anybody had a complete solution for the area's transit problems, but certainly we all came to a deeper understanding of the public transportation needs in the area, especially since the original bus authority disbanded. Since then, people have become isolated and frustrated in some cases. I will say many people were also making do with the services that they have. Some were quite satisfied with their options, though that could be set to change for some people. North Township Trustee Frank Bervan talked about how the township dial-a-ride quadrupled in size to 48,000 riders since 2012. They've purchased more buses. They privatized dispatch, but the $1.3 million in federal money they're using is still set to run out probably before the end of next year. They'll need some sort of local source of revenue if they're going to keep that going, at least at that level. As I said, I heard from many people who described the need. During the evening session, we heard from Shirley Lixon of Hammond, who doesn't drive. She uses dial-a-ride 6 or 7 times a week. She uses GPTC about 3 or 4 times a week. Without it, she feels she'd be basically a prisoner in her own home. She's looking not only for more buses, but for better access to their schedules for people like her who don't have a computer at home. People talked about the economic cost of the service, of the poor service we have now. Phyllis lives in North Hammond. She used the Hammond bus system when it was running. Now she walks 15 blocks to Strachan Van Til's in downtown Hammond. She sometimes uses a combination of GPTC and East Chicago and the South Shore to get to other places within the region. Though once she gets distracted, she often gets onto Pace and then shops in Illinois because the buses stop at all of the stores, he said. She said she'd like to go to other parts of Hammond and Cherville and Griffith, but for now, she said she's spending a lot of her money in Illinois. Young and old have had a tough time getting around. Letitia Robertson said she lives just close enough to Hammond High that her boys have to walk to school because they're not along a bus route. She's an aide for the Dallas Center for the Social Security office in downtown Hammond. She watches people walk on a daily basis in all kinds of weather, including during last year's snow and cold. Some people are using buses as to connect with the South Shore, but it's a pretty torturous process for many of them. Carl lives in Highland. He'll pick up a bus at the Kmart Plaza in Griffith. It's a fairly straight route to the South Shore, but when he gets back, he has to wind his way through East Chicago and the harbor before it finally loops back to Griffith, and it takes a tremendous amount of time. We heard from Patricia Hawthorne, a 22-year resident of Hammond, who has a disabled son who used the fixed route service in Hammond when it was around. She said he liked the freedom to be able to move around from place to place on his own, rather than being dropped off and taken home by the on-demand services. She said if the buses don't return at some point, she'll just end up moving to Chicago where they have transit around the clock. There was one nurse that really did strike me during the evening session. She said that people were choosing between paying for health care and paying for their transportation. She's a home health care nurse. She hasn't been doing it for all that long. She said she has clients in Cherville, on into Porter County. She has seen people who have no way to get to their doctor's appointments, no friends or family who can take them. Unless their insurance pays for it, they can't even afford the fee for on-demand service. She was clearly very upset. She said when it comes to transportation, and I'm quoting this, it has to be county-wide because I cannot to tell you how disheartening it is to tell this person that they cannot get to their very important doctor's appointment 3 towns over because I can't get them the transportation myself and there's no one else who can do it for them for free. As I said at the top of this, it was a really good discussion. I thought it went really well overall. We learned, if we learned anything, we learned that there is a real need for public transit in Northwest Indiana. In fact, that need may have grown over the last couple of years since the RBA ceased operations. The situation in North Township seems to be very close to dire at this point. Clearly, people are depending on this service for their daily needs, and the money is going to run out probably sometime next year. There are dedicated riders out there who understand how to find the cheapest ride from one of the on-demand services. Some of these people are very skilled at doing this, figuring out who costs this much to go where, and they can find out where they need to go and what they need to get. But to the outsider, though, this system seems very hard to navigate. The travel times are long and onerous at times. It's hard to imagine there aren't a lot more people out there who probably need this service, but just can't figure out how to make use of it. There are people who will walk a dozen blocks to take a bus, then wait an hour for a transfer point just to take another bus or a train. It's hard to make this system work for you, though I guess if that's your only alternative, you kind of do what you have to do. I'll add, from what people describe, access to the South Shore really seems kind of limited in the end. I mean, how will the area get the air quality benefits from the trains if people have to drive to the stations? It seems like in some ways we may be helping to solve Chicago's congestion problems. But as for the public meeting itself, there was clearly a lot of passion in the room. I'm not sure if that translates automatically into any political action, but transit is certainly an unmet need. I thought the back and forth interaction was better than most of the public hearings I've covered as a reporter over the years. There was enough expertise in the room that if people wanted a response, there was someone there who had real knowledge that could, help them with an answer. It was an incredibly free-flowing conversation. It sometimes takes people a while to get on track, but often when they do, they have a real poignant story to tell about what's going on in their lives. Even though it was something of a marathon, the hearings lasted really a total of over 4.5 hours between both the afternoon and evening session. I would say that having enough time for people to speak and to get their viewpoint out actually does help you understand where they're coming from. There really wasn't as much overlap also as I thought there would have been between the morning and the evening sessions. There really was a very distinct crowd in the evening. Overall, it was a positive experience. I enjoyed hearing from so many people who were passionate about the issue. The participants who came up to me said they felt the forum was worthwhile. I learned a lot from the principal, both NERC staff and the folks from Everybody Counts. It seemed like there would be some value to doing this periodically, actually, if nothing else, just to keep this issue on the radar screen for elected officials who will ultimately have to make the decision on whether they not want to fund some of these ideas to help solve some of the problems we see here in Northwest Indiana. Overall, I thank you for letting me do this.
I would just like to echo, appreciate Steve's time, both in the morning and afternoon sessions. And it was lengthy, but one thing I will say, Steve was very patient with those who had concerns that they wanted to express. There was times that maybe people got a little off of focus, talking about bus service and different things, but Steve allowed them to complete their thoughts and to express anything they had. I thought you did a very good job of moderating it, allowing people to certainly express themselves as they felt necessary. So I thought you did an excellent job, and I want to say thank you also.
Thanks, because you were there for really all the time.
I'd like to add too, the transcripts and the video, that was also videotaped, both meetings, and the transcripts, they've been available online before Thanksgiving. We sent you all a link to the transcripts and the video. There are hard copies of the transcript in front of you. There are extra copies of the transcripts of those meetings out on the table. I strongly encourage you to read this and see, again, the level of passion that's out there for trying to make transit work in Northwestern Indiana and trying to connect transit in Northwestern Indiana. This is critical. This does end the consent decree with Everybody Counts is over. The settlement agreement, this was the last piece that was in that settlement agreement, so that is over. But that does not end our commitment to trying to fix this transit issue and whatever we can do to try to make that happen. It remains an important element of the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan. We're in an update, but the meetings that we held in that was a common theme as well, how important that is. And this still remains a huge challenge for the region. As we know, its local share is really the difficulty in this. But the passion, the need, the desire to try to make this work is strong, and we need to find some kind of solution to be able to expand transit for everybody in the region.
Mr. Chairman, are we going to do that as NERC? I mean, why don't we wade into it and come up with recommendations for, not just for North Township, maybe just for Lake County. This is an issue that's a county-wide issue, and, I would volunteer to participate in such a committee if we decided to put one together, but it seems like a shame to go through all this. We're talking about spending $600 million on a rail extension. Why can't a portion of that be made available to county-wide transportation of buses?
Cool.
I don't understand why we're spending so much money and we're not talking about buses at all. $600 million could probably run buses for the next 50 years.
I think that dialogue needs to occur. I know Porter County is also feeling the need to explore some of their concerns about public transportation also. So, Mayor, I echo that. I think that kind of discussion probably needs to occur because I think it is a reality. Some of the people that spoke, I mean, you can tell they're totally dependent on public transportation.
Mr. Chairman? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, part of the conversation around the extension has always been about buses as well. And so I think this is wholly appropriate. I too would be willing to volunteer because I think we are the only ones that really have the freestanding bus entity. And I think it's it should be part of that conversation. I agree with Mayor McDermott.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I was talking to a high-ranking official who shall remain nameless from Illinois, and I was talking about what they do with Metra and when they expand Metra. And this gentleman told me that every time they do something in Illinois that has to do with the rail extension, buses are always part of the equation. And why we're not, I mean, and I appreciate the mayor, and I respect the fact that GPTC is providing a bulk of our transportation right now, and I acknowledge that. But this is a countywide problem. This isn't just a Gary problem, a Hammond problem, a Chicago problem. This is, our residents want to go other places besides Hammond, Gary, and Chicago. And that's where we're going to run into problems, guys. That's where we're going to run into problems, because nobody wants to say it, but when we want to have our residents bus into your communities, a lot of people have a problem with that. And that's where we're going to run into, let's just be honest about what's going on, okay?
Well, and I will say, I think David Wright is here. I commend GPTC for doing what they're doing to try to meet demands. I know everybody is tugging at your shirt tails. I know the city of Hobart has been working with them to try to expand the stops in some of our high employment areas. But I agree, this is something that we need to get very serious about because it's only getting more and more of a demand as our population continues to age and the demand for public transportation is a reality. And I think these are points well taken and need to be put into some kind of action as far as ongoing meetings.
There should be a committee, in my opinion, that just discusses this issue, and it's mostly a Lake County issue, I think. And maybe I'm wrong about that. And we should come up with a decision as a body and pitch it to the cities and towns.
Maybe the incoming chairman would consider creating a subcommittee to engage this. I'll defer to Chairman Milo at the next meeting, but I agree with you, Mayor. These are all issues that need to be front and center.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
And I want to say thank you to everybody counts for their engagement also at those meetings. They were there the whole time. Actually, I think there was some breaking of bread with them in between meetings.
Yep.
I do want to say thank you for your participation.
I just want to add to, as far as the train issue, if you haven't had a chance to meet Mike Nolan, the new general manager for NICTE, I will try to invite him and see if he can come to perhaps the January full commission meeting, if his schedule allows, and give you a chance to meet the new general manager. I think that would be good.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the commissioners for Steve? Again, Steve, we thank you. All right, let's move on next to the Finance and Personnel Committee. Chairman Jim Hunt.
Yes, the Finance and Personnel Committee met this morning bright and early, and we had a full agenda. As we had no meeting in November, we had 2 months' worth of information to digest, and the committee worked very hard and got many things accomplished that we needed to get accomplished, especially before the end of the year. Our financial status is good. There are no cash issues at this time. Budget is under 80%. We're 92% through the year, so the standing is good. We have some equipment that is going to be disposed of and be recycled, old computers and phones and so forth. Those will be recycled. The health insurance costs, the health insurance plan needed to be tweaked in order to meet the Affordable Care Act. And we have accomplished that, I believe, this morning, and meet the requirements necessary for meeting those specifications. Our change in our pay periods, we're going to be going to 26 pays for staff from 24, just to clean up the accounting processes and make things a little clearer for when it becomes time for us to reconcile our accounts. A building improvement status, meetings are taking place now on a regular basis. This is a good thing. Revised schedule is that we start to build out in February, and we are moving forward. And meetings are taking place on, as I said, on a regular basis, which is very important to be at the table and talk, to work through the different issues that come up. Lastly, I'd like to just read a certificate that was received. The Government Finance Officers Association has given the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the Northwest Indiana Regional Planning Commission for its comprehensive annual financial report and for this fiscal year, which ended on December 31st. So thank you very much for all the work that Angie Hayes and her staff have done. Just been excellent. It's been a pleasure to work with that group of people. We meet from time to time apart from the commission meetings so that we have an idea of the complexity of what goes on a financial side here. And it's been a pleasure to be a part of that. Ty, would you like to add anything? I'll pass the certificate down to you.
Yes, to echo that, I mean, congratulations to Angie and her staff. When this gets conveyed, this is considered the highest award that you can get for governmental financial reporting. So it's well-deserved, and that goes along with 10 years of perfect audits with no findings. So NERC's done very well in its reporting and financial shape. And I appreciate the work that Angie and her staff do. It is an achievement, and it's complex and it's stressful. And it's actually also stressful sometimes for other staff that have to make sure that they provide the extra information and whatnot that's needed. But I think that pays off in awards like this. So thank you to Angie and our team.
It's well deserved. I think at this time, in the interest of time.
All right. We'll move on to Environmental Management Policy Committee. Jeff Benson, the chairman.
Yeah, hi, thank you. We've met twice since our last commission meeting, so once in November and once again in December. And the December meeting, which the draft minutes are not in your packet, but the Chicago Wilderness Awards are this evening at Loyola, and they're giving an award to the Shirley Hines Land Trust for their excellence in ecological restoration for Ambler Flatwoods, which is it's the first Indiana award like that for the Chicago Wilderness. What Kathy Luther asked me to present today was that next month, NERC will be looking for communities to volunteer to help us promote solar rooftops in their jurisdiction. So this, as the NARC representative and the NARC Environmental Committee Chair, we got a grant for NERC to help promote solar installations here in the region, and Kathy's been working on that with her staff for about a year. And what they are trying to do next month is to get communities, all of us around the table, to volunteer for this. And it's not a grant, it's an opportunity to provide residents and businesses with a reduced price mechanism to go solar. NERC is doing the upfront work, selecting installers, marketing, etc., and they can provide technical support and training to help move the installations along and help residents and staff. The selected communities will be asked to help us set up a local workshop for folks interested in solar, and installers will provide an incentive for local communities. It's to be determined, but could include a municipal installation for solar. So it's a big thing to NERC staff is being funded by the grant, but what we're doing is trying to push solar. There's a very large company just right across the street that's making the inverters and providing jobs, and this is a really good opportunity. Our next meeting will be not here because that's New Year's Day, and as dedicated as we are, we've decided to move it a week, and which makes us have to move the location. And so January 8th will be at the Ranger Training Room on Mineral Springs Road for that meeting. And I believe the EPA is coming to discuss their results from their Pines investigation. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was my report.
Thank you. We'll move on to Transportation Policy Committee. Stan Dovis, Vice
Thank you,
Chair.
Mr. Chairman. The Transportation Policy Committee met on December 9th. The committee heard a presentation from NERC staff on the Regional Corridor Study. The focus on the study will be to fill gaps between regionally significant highways and limited access local arterials. The survey has been prepared and has been distributed today. Please take a moment to fill out this and return to NERC staff at the conclusion of today's meeting. For more information about the study and survey, please contact Eman Abraham. We have 3 actions for consideration today. The first action is adoption of Resolution 14-33 on pages 17 through 19, the 29th Amendment of the Fiscal Year 2014-2017 Transportation Improvement Program. Gary Evers will describe the proposed amendment.
This amendment adds 5 projects to our Transportation Improvement Program, 2 of which are in the town of Griffith, a sign replacement project and a flashing beacon on Main Street at the Erie-Lackawanna Trail. A project at Highland involving a pedestrian crossing project at 45th with the EL Trail as well. And finally, some Courthouse Square intersection and pedestrian upgrades in downtown Crown Point. 5th project here is a new project, City of Michigan City. It's an extension of their trail system. We are using some prior year balance dollars and carryover dollars from 2014 to get this project going. Our hope is to attract some additional federal funds later on. We are only showing the 2016 and 2017 phases of these projects simply because our TIP only runs through 2017. And we've indicated the cost to complete at the bottom of each one of those projects. We would ask for you to approve the incorporation of these into our Transportation Improvement Program.
The Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on this resolution.
Do I have a motion to that effect? No move. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next action is the adoption of Resolution 14-34 on pages 20 through 25, the 28th Amendment to the Fiscal Year 2014-2017 Transportation Improvement Program. Gary Evers will describe this proposed amendment.
Thank you. This amendment adds new NDOT projects to the TIP. The most significant one here is the first one listed on page 22, and that is the Indiana Gateway High-Speed Rail Project. NDOT has asked us to include this rail project into our TIP. This is a first ever type of thing. We usually don't deal with passenger rail projects. This is roughly little over $70 million worth of 100% federal funds. It'll be used to upgrade the signals and trackage between here and Portage and the Indiana-Illinois state line so that passenger rail trains and freight trains as well can move through more quickly. This funding has been long in coming. It was stimulus money authorized by Congress in federal fiscal year 2009. The balance of the amendment consists of some mostly small maintenance projects. I won't go through each and every one of them because some of them are like $25,000 for some bridge pavement work. But US 12, US 35, they're kind of all over the place. And nothing of any real significance. What we're told is that NDOT has had a lot of their projects, a number of their projects this year come in under budget, so they're able to put more to it, they're able to do more. So that's what we're seeing here, is some extra money, if you will, from NDOT that they are plowing back into their system. Be glad to answer any questions regarding these projects, but we ask that you incorporate these into our tip as well.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, the inner city, which two cities are we talking, or for the high-speed rail?
I believe it's Detroit to Chicago.
I believe it is two, and there's two passenger rails that are planned and one freight rail, is that correct?
I can't answer that question honestly. I do know that there's work on the Amtrak line being done, and then there's work on the main line. What is it? Is that Norfolk Southern that's being done as well? But I believe the governor was already up for the groundbreaking. I think work is underway. So this project is actually moving forward. Took a long time in coming, but we're really glad to see it going finally.
I look forward to the day when we have Indianapolis to Chicago.
Subsidized at $800. The committee recommends action on this resolution.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Vote on the public participation plan is scheduled for action today. The planned public comment report is in your packet on pages 26 through 28. Stephen Sesteric will provide a summary of the report.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Just a quick overview of the public comment report for the public participation plan update that's in your packet. This is for the most recent public comment period, 45-day public comment period for the public participation plan. That ran from September 15th to October 31st. We also had one public meeting which was held on October 28th at the Hammond Public Library. No comments were received outside of that meeting on the plan. We did get a few comments at that meeting, and that's contained inside the report. The comment report was distributed by email last month. It's also been available on the website, and like Stan said, like I said, it's also in your packets on pages 26 through 28. And that's it. Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. The final action today is adoption resolution 14-35 on pages 29 through 81, the public participation plan. Stephen will again describe this report, and then Steve Strange will now give an overview of the public participation plan.
Thank you, Stan. This is a summary of what's contained in the public participation plan and the process that we went through to get to this point today. Over the course of its history, NERC has involved tens of thousands of people and thousands of meetings, and we continue to do that, and we're trying to get better at that. And hence the new public participation plan. The importance of this plan is that it replaces a plan that was adopted in 2007, and this is an improvement, clearly an improvement over that plan. It's more detailed as far as how we will reach out and involve people in the planning process, not just for transportation, but in all of NERC's planning domains. We began the development of this new plan back in early 2012, and this plan draft has gone through a variety of of iterations, each time becoming more clear and an improvement over the current plan. It's had a number of extensions to a public comment period and lots of involvement by people who care. So we've had further discussions this year, and we're at the point of asking you to act on the recommendation of the Transportation Policy Committee. We expect increased access to NERC meetings when it becomes affordable and available. We will want to webcast meetings so people don't necessarily have to be in the room to participate. I don't think Nancy Adams is on the line from California, but so that didn't pan out today. And hold variable meeting locations as necessary. One important aspect of this new plan is that it tells people how we will treat different kinds of projects, different kinds of amendments to the Transportation Improvement Program. As important as the long-range plan is, well, a major tool to implement that plan is that official list of projects called the Transportation Improvement Program. So that's where, literally and figuratively, the rubber hits the road. So there's keen interest in those projects. So when and what kind of projects have to be out there for what various periods of time, so that all people have an opportunity to understand the kinds of action that are about to be taken and when those actions will be taken. So this plan is more clear about programming projects, selecting projects, allocating funds. There are various outreach methodologies that we have employed and will continue to employ in various settings. And this is just a menu of the kinds of things that can and do work to bring people to the table, for us to hear them, and for people to have a voice in actions that are taken around your table. We're going to use a list of accessibility features, essential accessibility features, as we take meetings out beyond this building to be sure that those meeting places are usable to people with disabilities. In addition, staff will generate some results of meetings. We will let people know what happened at those meetings. We will gather information from the public about the outreach and about the conduct of meetings. So here's a list of some of the improvements of this plan over the plan that's currently in place. As I said, the TIP projects, that's point number one, specified comment periods for certain kinds of projects, for certain kinds of amendments in particular. Eventual increased remote access to meetings. And you see the rest there. Enhanced information on our still relatively new but much more interactive website. There are a number of useful references in the appendix to this plan. And one thing that Stephen Sesterik in particular has worked on for the last few years is editing the newsletter. That was in hiatus for a few years, so we resurrected that, and he's also the full-time staff assigned for public involvement responsibilities, which are really the responsibility of all of the planning staff. So here's a couple of photos of people engaged in the planning process. Members of the commission have any comments or questions, they would be welcome at this time.
Are there any questions? The Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on Resolution 14-35.
Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 1435?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would encourage you to continue to pursue the technology. California is faced with the state of preparedness and possibly even emergency because of a weather front coming in. That's probably tied up phone lines. It's an extraordinary circumstance today.
There's no other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Staff gave updates on the 2040 plan update. The public comment report regarding the plan update is in your packet on pages 83 through 106. Stephen will describe the report.
Good morning again. I'm back. So as you know, or hopefully you know, you should know, during September and October, we held 15 public meetings across all 3 counties in NERC's region. We had sessions on motorized surface transportation, public transportation, and the environment. Between those 3 areas of interest, I would say definitely this sort of piggybacks off what Steve Walsh was saying at the beginning of the meeting today. The strongest interest was shown in public transportation. That's where we had the most attendees. That's where we had kind of the really, I mean, we had good discussion at all the meetings, but really those were the meetings where we had the best discussion, really getting to hear from people, and that was a fantastic opportunity. And like I said, it just sort of really consistently follows through with what Steve Walsh was saying earlier. There was a lot of desire shown in those comments. Just to highlight a couple of things, there was a lot of desire shown in those comments for the creation of some sort of a regional system, and to see connections across not just municipal but as county lines as well, and just to kind of either create or reinforce those connections, and even make it easier to go between systems. Things like that. So that was definitely a big thing that we heard across all 3 counties. In the other areas of interest, some other things we gained several comments on. Obviously, there's the Nickty Westlake extension, which is a big topic right now in the region. And also, especially in Western Lake County, there was a lot of interest shown in the proposed Main Street extension to Joe Orr Road in Illinois. We have been hearing about it. We're still hearing about it, and that's good. So it shows people are paying attention. It's glad to hear them coming out and making their views known. So the comment report is in your packets on pages 82 to 106. It's also on our website, and it should have also been distributed to you via email as well. So please take a moment, go through that, read that, and this is the report that will help our work going forward to update the plan going into next year. So thank you.
Any questions, Stephen?
Mr. Chairman. Just going back to what we were talking about earlier, me and Mayor Freeman Wilson. October 7, 2014, Gary Metro Center meeting, a comment comes in, we need more funding for the GPTC. NERC response, the 2040 plan supports the creation of a regional transit system funded by a dedicated source of local funds to match federal and state money. It's a great vision. That's exactly what I'm talking about, but one of the things I've noticed is Congressman Peake, with his train proposal, hit the road, took his vision to city halls, city and town halls all around the region, had a proposal, asked them to buy into the proposal, and now cities and towns around the region have to decide whether or not they want to participate in Congressman's plan. We come up with these great sentences and these great visions, but we do nothing about it. Like, if we really believe this, let's hit the road. Let's hit the road and tell people, hey, we support a regional transit system funded by a dedicated source of money. I'm not trying to get applause, I'm just saying it's really easy to put this stuff, and if that's really what we think, then we better hit the road and get part of that $600 million dedicated for countywide busing. That's the thing. NERC is a great body, but the congressman is teaching us how to get business done. I think we follow in the congressman's footsteps and say we want busing included as well.
Thanks, Stephen. The next meeting of the Transportation Policy Committee is scheduled for 9:00 a.m. on Tuesday, January 13th, 2015, And this concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Stan. Okay, let's move to Indiana Department of Transportation. Robert Alderman.
Can I just say real quick and let Bob go, but you're probably wondering who the individual is next to Bob. I'll let Bob make the introduction, but just to say we're not unaware of who's sitting at the table.
Actually, Ty didn't want to tell you, the individual sitting next to me is my bodyguard.
Well deserved.
Just when you thought you were rid of me. I'm back today to introduce my replacement at the LaPorte District, which is now the Northwest District of the Indiana Department of Transportation. Rick Powers. I'll let Rick in a few seconds tell you about his background. I'm living in a new world as we've sat here today. I think I've gotten like 12 assignments from people wanting things, so maybe I'll come back and be your page or something. It's an interesting world that I live in. Before I get out here today, I want to get with Ty for a few seconds. Actually, Ty, Brian, and Ed Soliday to talk about a situation, and also Ty, if I can get a mailing list, if you can electronically transmit a mailing list of the membership, I would appreciate it, and I will send you all of my contact information for future use. I'll always be available to all of you. And with that, I would introduce Mr. Powers and let Mr. Powers introduce you to his background. But thanks for having me again. In case I don't get the opportunity, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, God bless you all.
Thanks, Bob. I probably usually don't need a microphone, but I spoke all day yesterday at a leadership seminar. By the way, thank you, Mayor Milo. That was a beautiful facility you guys used yesterday. Well, actually, we paid for it. You didn't donate it, to be clear. But it is very nice, very historic, and it was a great day. I've worked with a couple of you already since the short time I've been here, and it's been about a month. And reading the comments that I saw in the minutes, which I actually did read, what you had to say about Bob, to say I have big tennis shoes to fill the run-in and his past, just knowing him. One, my name is Rick, not Rich. I've tried to change that, so that's why you see the scribbling. I wasn't doodling. It was just me trying to say who I am. So my given name is Rick. So to go back, I guess, to the previous point, the reason we talked about leadership all day is because, like the man I served before I came here in Indianapolis, I'm a retired Marine, 21 years. That was a long time ago, though. I retired in '96. But I like to say I've been basically serving the public, you, elected officials, and or the people, the citizens of the United States in one capacity or another my entire adult life. I retired from the Marine Corps in '96 and I went to work for the city of Chesapeake, Virginia. And then from there to Norfolk, Virginia. And then from there to Indianapolis. I served 2 mayors in Indianapolis. We did some very innovative things. In fact, I worked with Representative Soliday on a couple of issues and committees that he was on at the House, and I think one being an unfortunate incident with the stage collapse. And where Indianapolis, I guess, was kind of cutting edge. I'm known for alternative thinking, especially in the area where we all know we needed finance. Those things are drying up, hence we developed this, what I'd like to call embedded a business within government in the city of Indianapolis to the tune of about, I think its budget's in the neighborhood of $30 million now. But not a penny of it is tax dollars, not a penny of it is a grant. It's simply a business that works to zero, and it works. And it's taken a great burden off the taxpayers of Indianapolis. And to say it here before you today and say I can do that in INDOT, and I can do that in the Northwest region, I don't know. But I know I'm going to look. Because I know we need it, and I know I'm already hearing we're shifting our resources toward maintenance, not new construction. We're taking to the point of trying to maintain what we have versus build new. A meeting I had very recently with some of your concerns in the areas and the towns and the counties that you live in and or are elected within are rightfully concerns to you, which be me sitting in this position should be a concern to me and will be, I promise. I live in a culture of yes, but I also understand that sometimes yes isn't the answer I can provide. So I will tell you this, I will be honest. I will tell you what I can do, and I will work to the end to try to make Northwest better than what it was when Bob was here, and I know that's going to be hard. But Bob isn't gone far, so don't think he has. The reason he wants your names is because of his new job. In fact, he's going to be working a lot with Representative Soliday, again, because of that role, and working with the General Assembly and in communication. Hence, I will be using him a lot in the central office to work on the capital C communication side of our needs in this area. And him coming from here, believe me, I'm going to say remember when, probably a whole lot. Beyond that, like I said, there's not a lot to say. I grew up in Colorado. I'm used to snow. That being said, I'm used to skiing on it, not sliding around in it. But we will work through that. And again, we have a plan there as well. We've added staff, we've added equipment. I think we've got some of the equipment issues solved for this winter. And we've actually moved resources north of 30 to try to accommodate more of where the work is. So again, I'm looking forward to this. I know it's a challenge. It's been a challenge since the day I got here, and I hope I'm up to it, and I look forward to meeting each and every one of you and serving with you. So thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
Thanks.
Brian, if I might add, we do have, Rick does have more people and better equipment than last year, so I think that he's much better prepared for whatever comes this winter. We talking about the Northwest District have looked at preparation based on what we experienced last year. And so I think you're going to find that we had a lot to overcome last year, and I think we found ways to address those before this time around. Also, just informationally speaking, I let Representative Soliday because I have great respect for his position in the legislature and the power that he has. I'd let him know.
Absolute yes in everything we do, but you have done your very best to make it happen. And I don't know of any commissioner that has not been happy with your responsiveness.
And Brian, I would offer this. I would like the opportunity to you, Blair, Ty, sometime in the early part of next year to come back when we know that Representative Soliday can be here also, to talk a little bit about our finances, what we're doing, what we have, what we're doing with the money, and where we're going to. Maybe come with a PowerPoint presentation and kind of walk you through what we're doing. On a personal note, I do a lot, most of my life I've done a lot of traveling, and I would tell you that this group of people is the hardest group that I think I've ever had to walk away from, including the legislature. I think that it wasn't nearly as hard to walk away from. And my friend across the room would tell you it's a difficult place. But I've made incredible friendships here, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate you all.
I appreciate you.
Thank you, Brian.
It looks like Commissioner Adams is joining us by Skype. Is she there to hear us? Are you there, Nancy?
Yep, I'm here.
All right. Wow. We're just ending the meeting, so.
But ask Stephen, because I can barely hear you guys, if there's a way that we can turn it up.
We'll turn up the volume. She says she's having trouble hearing.
That might be,
as he's doing that, we're going to keep moving along, Nancy. Let's move to the Northwest Indiana Economic Development District. Commissioner Allen?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Northwest Indiana Economic, the Northwest Indiana Economic Development District, we met on October 28th. And the primary discussion and action that took place at that meeting was to discuss the hiring of a director for the Economic Development District.
Sorry.
Can you hear me? Yeah, so the district board members, we agreed to create and publish an RFP to be advertised for a director for the Northwest Indiana Economic Development District. We did get, we received one RFP from a company called Ratio, which has offices in Indianapolis and Chicago. And it's a company that's been in business, in the economic development business for 25 years, not only in the Midwest, but also national. So we have a meeting that will convene today at 11 o'clock, and at the district meeting today, we will evaluate the proposal that we have received from that vendor, and then we will act accordingly. The only other discussion that occurred at our past meeting, we did have discussion with the Northwest Indiana Forum Director Heather Ennis, and also Kay Nelson, and they were going to lobby Governor Pence and also the Indiana Economic Development Corporation to get those letters of recommendation to us so that we could forward them to the EDA so that we could get our official designation, EDA designation as an economic development district. And that's all that occurred at that meeting, Mr. Chair. That concludes my report.
Okay. We'll move to other business. Any commissioner having any?
Welcome. This service was provided by freeconferencecall.com. Please enter your
If there is no other business by any of the commissioners, we will move into announcements. Nancy, we just want to make sure that you are aware, we mentioned you earlier in the meeting. We appreciate your service to the commission. We know that next year you'll be an outgoing commissioner. We wanted to say thank you for your service and dedication.
I can't hear it. Should I put it on the conference call? I'm having a hard time hearing you guys.
We just wanted to acknowledge your service and dedication to NERC as you have served as a commissioner. I know next year you'll be outgoing, but we wanted to acknowledge your commitment to NERC, and we want to say thank you. Great. We'll talk later.
I can hear Ty, but I can't hear anybody else.
Just want to say thank you for your service. Did you want to say a few words?
All I can say is I have totally enjoyed being on NERC. The best thing I love about it is that it doesn't matter if you're a DNR, we work together, we get stuff done, and it's been incredible. I have loved the 4 years I've been in office, and I appreciate everybody's help and the things that you've helped me figure out and answer my questions. This NERC staff has been great. Stephen's been great today with this Skyping. I'm gonna miss it a lot. You guys have been great. I've totally enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. And I have to commend Blair for her TED experience. She was very good. And she brought up the NERC 2040 plan, which was even better. So thank you, Blair.
Thank you, Nancy. Hopefully she did that.
All right. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to public comments. Do we have any announcements real quick? Yes. Let's go to announcements.
I'd like to introduce our new clerk treasurer for Beverly Shores. He's here, and John Bowles. If you'd stand up and say hello. January 1st.
Bob Carnahan, the town of Cedar Lake. I just want to let everybody know I am completing 27 years on the Cedar Lake Town Council this December and was just re-elected to my 8th term, the biggest vote getter in the town. That my council will have faith in me to reappoint me to NERC next year, but we'll have to wait and see. One other thing, I received calls this morning because we had a wreck on US 41 this morning. A semi hit a utility pole and knocked out a business's sign. We had to shut the road down, but NIPSCO did get out there and repair that, and US 41 is now up and running again. Good job.
Thank you, Bob. Any other announcements? Yes, Gary.
We have a notice of funding availability out on the street right now for which applications are due on February 13th. I'm making the announcement now because there was an incredible demand several years ago for congestion mitigation air quality funding for motor fuel, for alternative motor fuel like E85, natural gas, etc. This is the last time that this funding will be available. Congress did not extend those alternative fuel provisions, and Federal Highway administratively extended them through 2017. So this is the absolute last opportunity to grab some 80/20 fuel money. I think in the past we funded projects in Crown Point, Hobart, the city of Gary, Chicago, LaPorte County, and city of LaPorte. This is it, the last chance. Thank you.
Gary, real quick on that, and I think we've investigated that it only applies to E85, no other alternative fuels, correct?
Anything except electricity. It could be biodiesel,
CNG, anything?
CNG, liquefied propane, you name it, any of the gases out there, just no electricity.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to public comments. First is Teresa Torres. Teresa.
Hi, thank you. I'll take these off because I can't, am I loud enough? Yeah.
Sure.
That's usually not a question I need to ask, but I do today. Steve Walsh, I agree, did a terrific job. I want to share with you that experience, those things on the 28th, that's the kind of meeting we envisioned when we came to NERC 20 years ago and asked you to start having those kinds of meetings. That's what we envisioned 10 years ago when you signed a settlement. Unfortunately, it's the first time it's happened. So I encourage you to consider allowing that kind of format to get public input, because the passion that you acknowledged, and we appreciate that, that's the kind of calls that Renee and I get, my staff gets every day. And that's why we've stayed the course. And that's why we've been as persistent as we have. And we appreciate your recognition of our agency. What would be even more appreciated is recognizing the role that those people who we represent and who you heard from that day, that they actually play and need to play in determining your priorities. And so we hope in whatever direction you decide to move forward, and I appreciate Mayor McDermott's asking for actually let's put some solid solidity behind this. We agree with that. But one thing as you move forward to consider, we hope that you will learn from lessons in the past. Yes, you need the money, but you have to have the right players, you have to have the right people at the table. So we encourage you to follow the example that Act Now, which is a coalition of transit providers, community organizations, and writers, the example they have set, and that is to have everyone at the table that needs to be there to afford them the respect and courtesy they need to be allowed to provide input. Quite frankly, you can't do that when you continue to have agendas that say you may only speak to what's on the agenda, because people like the lady to my right wouldn't have even known what the agenda was. I appreciate your patience because I got a lot of notes here, but it's really kind of important. You passed your public participation plan. Again, we're going to try to be optimistic, but the problem is I sat right here and heard Steve Strange tell this room full of people that tens of thousands of people were involved in developing that public participation plan. That's absolutely not true. It's just not true. It's not an opinion. There weren't even 1,000, let alone tens of thousands. That plan still does not reflect, you heard him reference your potential methodologies as a menu. It does not build accountability. It does not build expectation. It still needs you to put some solid commitments as to what you will do. To that end, when the report was given on the 12 sessions that you held, we didn't hear anything about how many people came. I know that there were 9 specific to public transportation. Steve said there were more people that came to those than all of the others, but there were only a handful that went. So please ask yourself, what was different between all of the meetings that you held using your public participation approach and the one that you held where Act Now and Everybody Counts used those same recommendations we gave you? That's why you had 120 people there. That's why people believed they would actually be heard. So there just might be some merit to the recommendations that we've made about how to, if you really want to hear from the people, these are the things you need to do. We did them for the meeting on the 29th, and you had that turnout. How many people were your others? We didn't hear that in the report. In fact, I've written to you, Ty, and asked you how many people actually came. It was less than 1/10 of what came out to the meetings that we advertised. Also, again, trying to be optimistic, but we have a client that is still waiting since July for a response to his complaint. We keep hearing, well, he got an answer. No, he didn't. The letter of complaint specifically identified that you contact his advocate, that's us, and there were specific issues identified. It doesn't work just to have your lawyer write a letter and say it's okay. So I know there are people that will say, well, good God, what does she want? We had the meeting, we've said nice things, we want something tangible. So take all these great words and put something solid behind it. Involve the right people in your discussions. Be willing to acknowledge that those people just might have some good ideas. And put something solid behind the nice terms that we all use to each other. We keep saying we're supposed to be here to help you. Steve even recognized there wasn't even any dialogue before this meeting. Everything was between attorneys. I can't get answers to a complaint. So come on, guys, we're supposed to be representing the same people. People with disabilities and senior citizens are 20% of the population. Stop being angry when we come to you with truths. That's all. And please, for God's sake, stop saying tens of millions of people wrote a plan that we all know 3 people wrote. Come on. That's it.
Thank you, Teresa. All right.
I just wanted to, thank you, I appreciate the comments. Just wanted to clarify, I think Steve's comments about the 1,000 people involved were for the whole.
Tens of thousands.
Whatever the comment was. He was referring to the whole public process of the CRP, not just the.
Well, what was on the screen was public participation plan, right? So it's kind of confusing.
Appreciate it.
Okay, let's go to Jim Nowacki.
Good morning, Commissioners, and Merry Christmas. My name's Jim Nowacki. I'm a resident of the city of Gary. I am not Santa Claus. However, like Santa Claus, I maintain an extensive list of naughty and nice. Very lengthy list in the city of Gary about naughty. I wanted to talk about economic development. In the city of Gary, we have 3 prime sources of economic development. One is government at every level, federal, state, county, township, local. Probably the biggest economic driver in the city of Gary is government. Number 2, U.S. Steel. Number 3 is the illegal drug trade in the city of Gary. And the reason I bring that up today is because just recently there was a large raid at property owned by the Gary-Chicago Airport. Now, one of the vendor, under very suspicious circumstances, the airport moved one vendor out, trucking company, and moved another vendor in. I thought that was very curious because they had to get rid of the truck trucking company because they needed to have the land for airport expansion. Then they moved another trucking operation in. I thought that was very odd. I thought it was even odder that when they couldn't make their rent payment, the airport went through extraordinary measures to maintain them at that location. This is the Castro Trucking Company. I'm glad representatives from the state, representatives from the county. Ms. Adams, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you represent the other county on that board. The mayor has left, but the 30 kilograms of cocaine in this operation, this sting operation, according to when the police have when they go in for the search, they get the probable cause affidavit. 30 kilograms. Now, when I say economic development and talk about the drug trade, it's not just the Gary drug trade. Gary is a center for the drug trade through the entire region. And I've always thought that much of the drugs that come into Gary and come into the region come in through that airport. So, commissioners representing the state, representing the county, representing Porter County, representing the city of Gary, we have to look carefully not only about running the airport, but what's going on at that airport. I think if I could wave a magic wand 65 years ago and change one thing, it would be that we didn't have the Gary-Chicago airport. That airport has sucked more vitality out of our city than probably any single project, over $200 million for a cheap runway expansion. That doesn't count the hundreds of millions of dollars we spent before. This organization has responsibility for planning for the entire region. And part of that big plan was the Gary-Chicago airport. It continues to be. We continue to hear about it over and over again. We don't see any positive results from that airport. What we see instead is a center for drug traffic in the entire region. I'm going to ask the commissioners from the county, from Porter County, from the state, to look carefully at what's going on over there and make sure that we see some changes there. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, Krista Sierra.
Whatever, I don't see why not. Please use the microphone.
Hello, everybody.
Krista, if you get that microphone, people can hear you.
Oh, I thought it was loud enough. Okay. Good day, everybody. This is the first time I've ever,
It's not working. Excuse me, mic's not working.
attended a meeting like this, and I appreciate it.
Start again. There you go.
Hello, everyone. I'm not going to repeat because I don't know what I said. I'm not that kind of a person. I appreciate being here. I appreciate everybody. I've learned a whole lot. I might be attending more in other matters as well. I appreciate you, sir. You hit it up. Everybody can talk. Everybody can make nice little plans. But if you don't have the action behind it, you're in bad shape. So I appreciate it. I thank you. Now, I'm just going to relate an experience that I had regarding transportation for handicapped. I read a newspaper article in Post Tribune about this Dial-A-Ride and all these marvelous things. And I decided to take up on that because my daughter, who is now 54 years old, has MS since age 16. She is now at the point where it's hard for us to even transfer her into the car. It's very, very hard. Only thing I ask is for her to be able to go to the doctor and back home. Otherwise, we deal with it. My experience was such, I called transportation. Lady, you have to call 3 days in advance. I says, I am aware of that. I would like to get an appointment with transportation in about a week for her to visit her doctor in Hobart. then this young lady, or whoever she was, didn't you hear me? I just told you we're all filled up for the whole month. I says, I'm sorry, I guess I didn't hear it. Thank you. Hung up. I was so angry. I remembered everybody counts. And I called Teresa. I says, this is ridiculous. Give me an idea of what I have to do, who to talk to get transportation for my daughter, only to the doctor and home, nothing else. I'm not worried about anything else. And she says, come to the meeting. I couldn't make the last meeting, that was in Crown Point, I believe. But today, I made a point to come here. You really need to think about making availability, getting the right people to man the telephones, getting the right personnel. It shouldn't be such a big deal to have transportation for handicapped people to go see a doctor. Not have all these commandments. Well, I'm going to have to tell you something else, Mrs. Sierra. If you cancel the appointment with the doctor or the doctor cancels with you, you have to give us 24-hour notice. And the last pickup will be at 3 o'clock. So, now tell that to your neurologist. Well, I can only come, blah, blah, blah. I have to leave by 3 o'clock. This is so stupid. I just don't know what we can do. I am asking for help, not only for my daughter, because I'll make do. But there's so many of the same people, the same situation. I'm looking around the room. You're all getting older. Okay? You might be losing family somewhere down the road. What are you going to do? Think about it, because it happens. I can hardly move now. I've done all these years with my daughter, helped her. My husband is in need too now, totally different situation. But I don't mind. I'll keep going till the day he calls me. In the meantime, I'm depending on you to do just what this young lady said about creating a happier community. Please think about it, act on it.
Yes.
I, with you, keep everybody moving. I'll be here because I hear other things going on that I get interested in.
Cool.
I thank you and I wish you all a really nice day. Very
Can I ask you a quick question? Was
no
this-
problem.
Was this South County bus service that you called?
Which one was it? Southlake, but it's not a bus service. We need to stop.
Well,
calling it a
demand
bus
service, the demand service.
Southlake.
Okay, make sure, like, you're from Maryville, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, make sure that you contact Maryville authorities too, because I believe they help subsidize, if I'm not mistaken. I believe they pay a certain amount to South.
But you have to call Southlake to make the reservation.
I know that, but they need to be aware if you're having problems getting transportation. You need to make them aware of it. That's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you for your, I will do that.
Okay.
Believe me, I will do that. But I'll tell you, everybody counts was my last solution.
Right.
I have worked, like for help, sort of, 24/7 with a person named Dr. Prasad in our area, Redula Prasad. I was a helper 24/7 when she had her home in Maryville for MS people. So I know what's going on as far as handicapped people are concerned and what they have to deal with on a daily basis. I honor them, that they do. Okay. So, thank you very much, and I will Contact Mary.
Yeah, let them know.
I'm a
that you have
little
a problem.
nervous.
Okay.
The
All
very
right.
best, okay?
Thank you. Okay, we have one more, and I appreciate the patience of the commissioners. Renee?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to keep this short because Teresa sort of mimicked all my comments, so I don't want to be too repetitious.
We should have talked before the meeting.
Yeah, we should have. I too would like to thank Mr. Walsh for his facilitation of the meeting on the 29th. It went off awesomely. What I would have liked to have seen in the report here was a written report on the transportation meeting from Wicker Park, the comments that were there. Also, like she said, it would have been very helpful to find out how many people were at each of the other meetings. It might help you in the future when you're trying to plan a public meeting to find out or to see why you didn't get the numbers that you're supposed to get at those meetings. We, for the meeting of the 29th, we did a mass mailing. And I mean a mass mailing. I'm still tired from it. But, you know, we've tried to make suggestions to you about your mailing list and what was kind of missing on it. But the lawyer said that it was sufficient, but it's not sufficient. You really need to work on that, and we do have some suggestions. In your plan for the future, you should have made a commitment about ADA compliance in all of our communities because it's really needed. The meeting on the 29th, that passion that you saw, Brian type, that passion, that despair that you saw from those people speaking, that's what we've been trying to convey to this committee all along. You know, when I sit back and I watch people from everybody's town speak, I look at everybody around the room and some people, they whisper something or they roll their eyes or they just quit paying attention altogether, they don't listen. That's all we've been trying to do is convey what the people were saying. We're advocates. That's what I do. That's my job. I'm an advocate for the people that can't get here. I'm an advocate for the people that have died trying to save and wait on to happen what's never happened yet for transportation. That's what I do. You don't have to like me, but you have to respect my job.
All right. Thank you. All right, that concludes the today's meeting agenda. If there is no other issues from the commission, do I have a motion to adjourn?
You shall move. Merry Christmas and happy holidays.
Yes.